Okay, good morning, guys. Sorry, I have to go and attend to something. So I believe we can start now. It's such a bulky material. Let me see the units we'll go for. I hope you guys. I hope you can hear me. And oh, sorry, I have not dropped the link for them. Oh, why is everything lagging like this? If you guys should help us share the link with them in the group. My WhatsApp is delaying to load here. Sorry for the delays. We planned it to be 9 before. I just woke up. So, what's what do we have here? Writing for advertising and public relation up to module 7. Hmm. Hmm. Well, I think we will not dwell much on this same thing: print journalism and broadcast journalism, online journalism. Oh, sure, sure. Okay, okay. We'll start from module 2, and then we'll be going fast, as fast as we can. Fine. All right. So help us share the link, Obiko. My own WhatsApp is refusing to open here. Oh no, no. Okay, Grace, you are here. Good morning. Please share the link to the group. Thank you. Khadija, Talabi Esther, Enyola, Okorocha Marian, Sufficient, Fatima, every one of us. Okay, thank you, Esther, for sharing it. All right, I think I can rest now. Let's just continue. So let's quickly read. We are reading for exam now, so no long story, no long news, just important things you need to know. Just to have some hint. So, what is news? What is news? Suppose you had to take the task of planning a newspaper, and you had the following, and you had before you 10 reports which began in the following way. All those ones are just stories. Uh, what is it that makes an event or a set of facts news? And what is it about one news idea that gives it a better rating than another? So how do you assess news value and the rest of them? They are still not talking yet. I'm going for the definition of news. Okay. You see so many redundancies, just explanations. Ah, they've not even given us what's news. Well, anything that is a fact that is worth sharing, that carries values. Assessing news value, let's start from there. We can learn two important things from this exercise. It is fairly easy to define what news is. It is less easy to assess its value because we are talking about two different things. All the 10 stories we have looked at above passed as news because it was the first time the information they contain was being put forth, the reader, sorry, put before the reader. So something we qualify as news if it is just appearing in the market, if it's just an occurrence that is still fresh. That is what they are trying to say. So the shorter Oxford Dictionary has a useful definition for news. We are just coming to the meaning of news now. So everything that they've been saying before here, they are just explaining, giving you examples for you to understand. But we will need definition because we are preparing for exam. So what is news? According to the shorter Oxford Dictionary, news, tidings, new information of recent events, new occurrences as a subject of report or talk. That is news. Tidings, new information of recent events, new occurrences as a subject of report. That is what we call news. That is what we call news. So you should put that. You should put that in your mind. So let's move on. The term information is important because it is the information or knowledge of an event rather than the event itself that news is concerned with. Yes, what we want to pass about an event is what we call news. It's not even the event itself. You understand? So if they say that they are holding a wedding there, well, a wedding. So what happened in the wedding? How is the wedding like? The information you give about the wedding, that is what qualifies as news. It's not just that there is a wedding there. Everybody know what wedding is. So, but what type of wedding are they having there? What is happening there? Who is wedding who? And the rest, all those information you gather about the event qualifies as. Many writers, in trying to define what news is, have got bogged down in the qualities that news stories contain. News is people, say Harold Evans. The person that said news is people is Harold Evans. Harold Evans that news is people. He was a former editor of the Times newspaper. So that was the person that said news is people, Harold Evans. So, well, it frequently does involve, I think I'm out of screen again. What's this again? Oh? These people should not start rubbish this morning. Don't worry, I just noticed. I'm trying to bring it back if it's going to show. We don't really have this time. If YouTube will do any rubbish, let's go to Zoom as soon as possible. So news should be surprising. So what should news be? What are the qualities of a news? What are the qualities of a news? Number one, news should be surprising. It should be surprising. It should be dramatic. It should, said an American editor, make people say, gee whiz. All useful qualities. So gee whiz was an idea of who? An American editor. Excuse me. Editor was one that said news should be don't worry about that one. Let me do what I want to do. Okay, so that is all on that. Now, the crux of the matter is that to merit, excuse me, what's wrong with all this one like this? I beg, we don't have time for all this rubbish. To merit its place in a newspaper, news should not be only news in an absolute sense of being news or being new. It should also be sort of news. Ah, sort of news that the readers of the paper would likely want to read. So you should have the interest of the audience in mind also. That's what they're trying to say. So what are the determinants of news, guys? What are the determinants of news? Well, an event may make news because of one of the following reasons. So when we say that gather news, when like now, as you are going to school today to write an exam for news, what will make the news worthy? And determinant of news, let's just go to them quickly. Impact. Impact is one of them. It must impact the audience. So this concerns the question of what effect does it have? What effect does it have? That is what impact means. It's as simple as that. That is the first determinant of news. That is the first determinant of news. my story will qualify as news if it will have an impact, if it will have an effect on the audience. Number two, timeliness or immediacy. This concerns the question, is it new? So it must have effect. It must have effect, number one. Then it must be timely. It must be timely, something that is just occurring. You cannot tell us something that happened that has already been reported before, that everybody already know, that is even a common knowledge now, and say it's a news. It's not a news. It was a news before, but now no longer a news. So it must be timely, and or have the quality of immediacy, timely or immediacy. Now, if it involves a well-known person or organization, if it involves a well-known person or organization, so an information that you want to give will qualify for prominence if there is somebody important in it, because people like to know how things are going in the lives of all those important celebrity and the rest of them. So if is there anybody important in it? Is it new? What effect does it have? Those are the qualities we have checked so far. We've checked impact, timeliness or immediacy. We've checked prominence. Another one is proximity. Proximity is always the range, the coverage. From the general meaning of proximity. Information has proximity if it involves something that happens somewhere nearby. I may not be totally interested in what is happening in Indonesia now, because I feel like it's none of my business. I'm not living there. I don't have anybody there. You understand? So if you now do something that is happening in Indonesia, well, it may have impact on me for me to have global knowledge. But if I'm not around me, how are people doing today? That's the proximities around me, nearby. So proximity has to do with closeness to the place or the dwellings of your audience. So information has proximity if it involves something that happens nearby. Something that happens nearby. So that is very important. That is very important. So let's move on. That is proximity. Then conflict. Information has conflict if it involves some kind of disagreement between people. If it involves some types of disagreement between people, you already know what the meaning of conflict means in the general sense. You know what conflict means: disagreement. Means disagreement. So information will have conflict if I think they used to ask questions on this part soon. So the sixth one is the unusual. Event has deviate sharply from the expected, that depart considerably from the experience of everyday life, make news. Events that happen that is not a common thing. You understand? That is why they say the unusual. It's not the usual thing that used to happen. So something will qualify as news if it's unusual. A monkey now backing it may be another monkey, and then hawking fruit around the street, fruit on its head. That is unusual. So you like so when you see unusual thing, you understand, it qualifies because it will catch the interest of the people. Anything strange, hazardous or anything, you can. So now that is for the quality of the unusual. Be noting them. Everything we started from impact. Don't forget. So currency is another one. Occasionally, a situation long simmering will suddenly emerge as the subject of discussion and attention, e.g. the matter of the Niger Delta. Currency. A situation long simmering will suddenly emerge as the subject of discussion and attention. When something is in motion for a long time, so you need to a fresh report on that matter may come up. That is the currency, what is currently happening on this matter. So necessity, the 7 previous categories of newsworthiness, involve people, events, and situations that call out for coverage, meetings, speeches, accidents, and so on and so forth. Now, the final category is of the journalist making. That is, the journalist has discovered something that is necessary to disclose. The situation or event, the person or the idea may or may not uh, come under any of the previous 7 categories of newsworthiness. So the essential element is that you, the journalist, consider the situation to be something everyone should know. So necessity is based on the journalist himself. So when you see that an event or something that you see or you consider that this thing is necessary for me to tell the world this, or to tell these people this, then it's uh qualifies for necessity. And I think that will be the last determinant of news. What are the determinant of news? You guys should list them in the chat box, please. We started from impact. The determinant of news: impact, timeliness, or immediacy. So under the determinant of news, timeliness is also known as what? Immediacy. So prominence, proximity, conflict, the unusual, and currency. Then the last one, which is on the part of the journalist himself, necessity. So after that, we'll go to components of a news. What are the things that make a news? They are also known as the rudiments of the news story. Components of a news are also known as the rudiments of a news story. Please, it's very important. Those are little details they like you guys on. Component of a news is also known as news. What is it called now? All right, so let's do that. So what are those components? One, a news must be accurate. So accuracy is part of the component of news. These ones are different from the determinant of what will make an event a news is determinant of news. But now, the what make a news, the things you are expected in the news itself, a news you want to write now, you want to give. So we have accuracy. This is the quality of the state of the writer being precise or exact in terms of name calling and or data presentation in the news. That is accuracy. First component of a news, accuracy. First component of a news, accuracy. So let's leave that. Attribution is the second one. Attribution means crediting the story to a source. You guys have done this a lot when you were doing your group reading then. I remember when I used to send the lecture notes daily to the class captain. You guys have done this attribution several times. It's now ringing your head. If they ask attribution today, I know you will just bounce it. So attribution means crediting the story to a source. Crediting the story to a source. This is where we got this information from. That is attribution. So let's leave that. Balance and fairness, the third component of a news. The first component is accuracy. The second one is attribution. The third one, balance and fairness. By balance, we mean that both sides in a controversy must be given their say. So, you will not say because you believe that this person is the one that is right, this other person is wrong. It is now only the person that is right that you now give the chance to speak in your report. What happens to the other side? No, it's not done like that. So by balance, you must give each party involved an opportunity to have a say. Then in a political campaign, all candidates should be given enough space and time to present their major points. You see now, when you go to when election start now, something you're not trying to cover some stories, you now go to where they're voting. You now say, me, it's because me, I'm doing this party. It's only my party I want to record. It's only God that will allow you to get home without your camera. So, balance and fairness. So, that is for balance. Every side must be given opportunity for a say. Then for fairness, we mean that all parties involved in the news are treated without favoritism. Favoritism, no favor. You are not siding one person or, leaving one person. So fairness also involves the honest use of words. Fairness also involves the honest use of words. There are so many ways you can show favoritism. So Oh, sorry, I've not gotten that correctly. I want to ask you guys a question. So let's see this. So, what of brevity? News writing is the art of knowing what to leave out and condense. The subject, verb, objects. That structure helps to cut out sentence or sentences to the bone. So brevity is, when your story is too long, it will affect the brevity. So too much junks will affect the brevity of a piece of writing. So brevity is another quality or component of a news. Then clarity. Clarity, ability to write clear and interesting story is a valuable skill. Clarity is the ability to write clear and interesting story. Then human interest. Readers like the human angles to a story. The human element catches the reader's interest. So it should be given prominence in the story. It must have human interest. That is another component of a news. Identification. This means identifying the people you are writing about so that readers and listeners can visualize, locate, and identify these people. So that is identification. The standard identifying format is the name of the person first, the age, address, and occupation. That is the standard identifying method. The name, the age, address, and the occupation of whoever you are writing about. That is the standard identification method. That is the standard identification method. So name, age, address, and occupation. So let's digest that. All right, so news point. News point is another thing. Every story must have a point and must be made high in the story. Every story must have a point and must be made high in the story. So I think the next one is objectivity. We have a lot of them. Objectivity means that objective journalism attempts to present a complete report that is not colored by the opinion of the reporter or the requirement of the prevailing government. When you are not subjected to change part of the story based on any factor, the the news must be objective. That is what we are saying about objectivity. Not because a pressure is coming from somewhere or something is happening underneath, or you yourself you are emotional when you are writing it, then you not change details, you color something, or you change some things. No, no, no. That makes it subjective. Objectivity is what should be the case. So verification. When the reporter checks in or information against some kind of objective source, we say that the material has been verified. So verification is also important. Then a story must be complete. Complete stories are written by reporters who articulate and answer the questions their readers, viewers, and listeners will ask. For example, the temperature reached an all-time high yesterday at noon. While in college, she set records in 100 and 200-meter races. You would expect the temperature hit 102 degrees, breaking the record of 98 degrees set on April 10, 1999. So this one will be complete. But if you just say the temperature reached an all-time high yesterday at noon, I want to ask you a question: that what was the all-time high before, and what was the one we got yesterday? So I want to know the difference. So you see, people want complete stories, not you just telling them anything like that. So another component of a news is that responsibility. A news must be responsible. So responsibility is not a visible part of a news story. It is an attitude that the reporter carries to the job. Wonderful. Responsibility is not a visible part of the story like every other thing we might have been saying. It is what an attitude that the reporter carries to the job. Yes, it is so it is a factor of the reporter itself. So I have a question there for you guys to answer, and let's see if you guys you've been following. So that is responsibility. Do we have any other thing? Okay, that is all. But let's quickly go through them again. Let's just mention them again for our perusal. Let's mention them again. Component of news. Basically, what are the components of news? Component of news or news story. They are the rudiment of the news story. They are the rudiment of the news story. Okay, so what are they? One, accuracy. Two, you guys should start listing them in the chat box. Component of uh, a news story. The component of a news story. Let's start listing them one by one. There are quite a lot of them we've mentioned here. So let's start listing them. So we started with accuracy, attribution. Then we moved on to balance and fairness. There are two different things: balance and fairness. Then brevity. Then clarity. Then clarity. Okay. Please excuse me. Then we move to clarity. Then human interest. Then identification. Then occupation. That is another one. News point is another one. News point. Objectivity is another component of news. Then verification. Complete. Must not be half story. Complete. Then responsibility, which is on the part of the reporter. And that brings us to the end of this place. So let's move on to another thing quickly. We don't have time. Writing for newspaper and now the lead. Writing for newspaper and now the lead. Now, functions of the lead, hints on writing the lead. That is what we are going to talk about here. And identify the element of a lead. Write a good lead. So usually news stories are written in the inverted pyramid style. This question on inverted pyramid style came out like 8 times in one of the previous semesters. Like they repeated that same question. That was a lucky year. Inverted pyramid style. News stories. Traditionally, news stories are written in the inverted pyramid style. You should know that. Please know that. Know that. Know that. I don't know, but know that too, please. Biko. So that is a question for you guys to digest that part of this thing. All right. So sorry, I don't have time to be checking the charts today. We need to finish a lot. So news stories are written in the inverted pyramid style. That is, they begin with the most important piece of information in the story, followed by additional facts arranged in descending order of importance. So arranging your story in descending order of importance is what we call inverted pyramid. The one on top is the most relevant is the most relevant that can catch the interest. So you start arranging it down so that the main thing would have been passed before people get to where they will get tired of reading the news. So that is the idea of inverted pyramid. So let's look at the lead. What is the lead? The lead, which is also called the intro. This is a question they repeat too oftentimes. The lead or the intro is the most important paragraph in a story. Is the most important paragraph in a story. The lead or the intro is the most important paragraph in a story. One that talks about night interest in the story. In order to achieve this, the following are notes, like things a lead must have. The intro should be direct, uncluttered, and unambiguous. You understand? It should be clear out. It should clear out any unwanted clutter, such as needless details, precise titles, or attribution. Then the intro should be self-contained. It should be meaningful on its own. Never start the intro with a subsidiary clause. This approach slows down the story by delaying the main point and thus raising questions in the mind of the readers. Never start the story with numbers in digits. Spread them out instead of So instead, find another way of introducing the numbers. A good way of doing this is using about. Never start stories with official names or official bodies. It's boring. Except for effect, only rarely should you start the intro with quotes. Usually, knowing who is saying what helps the story win over its readers. Try as much as possible as you can to start the story with who or what. Avoid the it type lead, except for extreme instances where it is the catch of the story. Do not be obsessed with the rules regarding the length of the lead. This one is very important. Do not be obsessed with the rules regarding, because you know that the lead must not be too long. You are now bothered. You don't even know what you know how. Although it's a very hard part of the writing, coming up with the perfect lead. Well, functions of the lead. What does the lead serve? Since we already say is the most important part of the story, the list summarizes the story. In this kind of place, you have to pay attention, because what they usually do is list three of them and one that is not part of them and tell you to fish it out. So what does the lead does? The lead summarizes the story. It provides answer to the questions of who, what, when, where, why, and how. The lead provides answers to the questions of who, what, when, where, why, and how. There is a way you people call this. Oh, my network. My network. Oh. I didn't even know. I just noticed now. I don't even know that you guys were not seeing the. My mind is just on. I just want us to finish. I believe it will show back soon. It should show back soon. So I have done. Yes, the W, the 5 W's and H. Thank you. Please, you should note the full meaning: who, what, when, where, why, and how. The 5 W's and H. Now provide quick identification of persons. The lead should provide quick identification of persons and events in the news story for the reader. Emphasize the most important element in the news story by placing that element in the first paragraph of the story. That is what the lead does. Let's go through them again. What does the lead do? It summarizes the story. It provides answer to the 5 W's and the H. That is who, what, when, where, why, and how. Then it provides quick identification of person. It emphasizes the most important element in the news story. Hints on writing the story. How do you write the story? Discover the most important element of the story first thing, because the lead is the most important part of the story. So you must discover that important part first, important element of the story. Secondly, decide on what lead element to emphasize among the 5 W's and H. So use a single element if you find out that one element stands out uniquely in the story. Then use the structure of the subject to verb, predicate, construction. Go straight to the point. If you don't remember any other one here, shall remember, go straight to the point and determine the most important element. Those two, they are easy to recall. So so they are not giving you example, and none, they are very funny. When we say what what is an example of what in the 5 W's and H? Okay, the collection of tools on a road in the industrial town of Agbara in Ado-Odo or Taluka government area of Ogun State has triggered off misunderstanding between a firm, Agbara Estate Limited, and motorists. That is what. So a mixture of relief and repressed anger was the feeling expressed by Nigerians yesterday. What is that example? And they may test you on it. They will give you an example and say, does it fall under what, who, or who? I just want to. A who lead can also be used when the person is not widely known. What is featured in such a case is the person's occupation, sex, age, and other distinguishing characteristics. E.g., a 10-year-old boy who ran into the side of a moving car is responding to treatment at a private hospital in Ikeja. That is a who lead, because you mentioned a 10 years old boy there, somebody that is not popular. What of a where lead? That is places, sometimes dominant. So places sometimes dominate the lead. So like National Stadium Surulere is the venue for this year's National Day parade. That's an example of where lead. You know, then when a deadline or the time of an event sometimes present a newsworthy angle to a story. By next year, telephone users in Nigeria will smile as the telephone network in the country would have undergone a dramatic change for the better. That is a lead on when. A lead on when. So why? A lead on why. An example of a lead on why. The shortage of midwives has forced the Blue Cross Hospital Ogba to close its maternity ward. To close its maternity ward. To close its maternity ward. So that is why. Why? The shortage of midwives was the reason why the maternity is closed. So you put the reason there. So why? That is a kind of lead. How? Somewhat less common are stories centered on the how. Now, trapped by the seat of his new car, a young accountant was burnt to death on the highway in Lagos last night. How did this person die? He was trapped by the seat. But they say this one is not common. It's not a common style. So there is a note here. Deciding which of the 5 W's and H is best suited for a story lead is an exercise that gets easier only with time and experience. The more you do it, the better you become. That's what they're trying to point you to there. So for beginners, it is advisable for a beginner to look for the who or the what angle. So the reporter could then check his fact for any other angle. But what you should be looking out for is the who and the what. So the lead writing style, what are the styles we have in writing lead? In addition to emphasizing one of the other of the 5 W's and the H in a story lead, reporters use several styles in structuring their leads. So what are the styles we use in writing leads? We have the direct lead, the laid lead, summary lead, effect lead, question lead, quote lead, and cartridge lead. Direct lead, the laid lead, summary lead, effect lead, question lead, quote lead, and cartridge. Let's be listing them in the in the chat box. The styles of writing leads we have. Write your own. I've written my own. Write your own. The types of writing leads we have: direct lead, delayed lead, summary lead, effect lead, question lead, quote lead, and cartridge lead. So types of lead. Types of lead. Types of lead. So the summary lead, the first one we'll talk about is the summary lead. The summary lead consists of summary statement that answers the what, who, when, and where of an event. The summary lead is a summary statement that answers the what, who, when, and where of an event. That is what we call the summary lead. Answers the what, the who, the when, and the where of an event. Okay, so that is for summary. The figurative lead. This type of lead permits the extensive use of figures of speech or allows the use of words in the figurative sense rather than the literary sense. So when you are speaking figuratively, you are using something else to represent something else. So this lead is most times used in news feature writing. That is figurative lead. The question lead. The question lead raises a question and answers it. A question lead is commonly used in explanatory or specialized writing, such as news feature writing. So the question lead is one that raises a question and answers it. It raises a question and it also answers it. It's very simple to recall since the name is question lead, and what it does is raises a question and answer it. So you should know the type of lead they are talking about if in case you see that. Then the quotation or quote lead. A quotation lead usually consists of a striking statement that could make the reader interested in the story because the quotation lead is easy to write. The general rule is to use it sparingly. It should be used only where the quotation is quite significant. That is quotation lead. Descriptive lead. A descriptive lead is commonly used when a news story is describing a scene. When a news story is describing a scene, that is descriptive lead. Then bullet lead. In fact, description, from the word description is describing it. So that one is very simple. So bullet lead, the bullet lead is almost like a headline. It is usually a short sentence, but if deployed effectively, can be of great effect. So the bullet lead is like a headline, very short, usually short sentence. So that is on bullet lead. Another one is effect lead. This focuses on the effect or consequence of an event. This focuses on the effect or consequence of an event. Oh, here we go again. So that is for focus lead. So we have the dialogue lead. Dialogue lead, just from the word dialogue, is useful as a break from the more routine method of beginning a story, and can be very effective in getting the point of the story across. But unlike other types of lead, several paragraphs are used for the dialogue. Contrast lead. The contrast lead utilizes interesting contrast of situations to improve the newsworthiness of events. Contrasting events to improve newsworthiness of your story. Direct address lead. As the name implies, the direct address lead directs its statement squarely at the reader. With its informal, chatty approach, the direct address lead offers a refreshing alternative to the less personal style of the typical news lead. While we have double feature lead. The beginning of a news story may unite two separate ideas into what is called a double feature lead. Another version of this lead is the shared tail lead. Is the shared tail lead. So double feature lead. Excuse me. Okay, so I have a question there for us. So that is all on the types of lead we have. Well, let's go through them again to refresh our brains, like so that it doesn't look like we just rush through it. So the types of lead we have, Don't forget when we were mentioning quote lead, if question lead, summary lead, delay direct lead, those ones they are under styles of writing lead. There are two different things. So styles of writing lead, you can use direct style, delayed style, summary style, effect style, question style, quote style, or cartridge style. That one is under style. But what we've just finished doing is types of lead, the types of lead we have itself. So we started with the summary lead, the figurative lead. Most of them, they mean exactly the word that they use to name them. Like when you say figurative, you know what it means to speak figuratively. When you are using another scenario to represent something else that you mean, like that, it's kind of speaking in irony. So figurative. Summary is also like a statement, a summary statement. So from their name, if you know the root English word that they use in naming them, you will know the idea or the type of lead it is. So summary lead, the figurative lead, the question lead, quotation or quote lead, descriptive lead, Let's be listing them in the chat box. Bullet lead, and we have effect lead, dialogue lead, contrast lead, direct address lead, double feature lead, which is also known as shirt tail lead. Those are the types of lead we have. And after we are done with lead, the lead is the most important part of a story, if you still remember. Why is this page blank? Is it really blank, or we need to wait for it to load? So what is the next thing? Let me ask you guys, how much time do you have left? How much time do we have left, so uh I don't drag you too much? Yes, do we still have time? Let me hear from you guys. You guys have not been listing the types of lead we have. Summary lead, the summary lead, the figurative lead, and so on. Okay, it's like they said the exam is two. They said the exam is two. The exam is two. That is awesome. That is awesome. Okay, if the exam is two, I think we will continue with another topic. So, yes, you guys should bring in the type of leads we have. Okay, Bolu Adetunji has done that. Direct, summary, question, figurative. No, you people have mixed it together. We study two things. One is style. The style is where you have the direct, the summary, the question, the whatever. Then under the types, two things there, but most of them they are looking alike. But don't mix them together. Under the types, that is where we have the summary lead, the figurative lead. Then we brought it down like that. Okay, I think we need to let's do something. Let us do something to so that we'll use that to understand this very well. What is that we want to do? Let us count how many styles were given to us and how many types were given to us, so that you will know when you want to start listing. Your mind will know which one is which one. Let's go to the styles first. Under styles, in fact, they may even test you like that how many styles of lead writing were mentioned or was mentioned in the material. So under styles, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They gave us 7 styles of writing a lead that a reporter may use to develop a lead. That is your own style. The writer itself, the reporter itself, the styles you can use to write a lead. You have the direct, the delayed, the summary, the effects, the question, the quote, or the cartridge style. All those are styles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 styles of writing a lead. What of types of lead? How many types of lead do we have? If you ask you now, how many types of lead were discussed in your material? We have 1 summary, 2 figurative, 3 question, 4 quote or quotation or quote, 5 descriptive, 6 bullet, 7 effect lead, 8 dialogue lead, 9 contrast lead, 10 direct address lead, 11 double featured lead, which was the last one. So they gave us 7 styles and 11 types. 7 styles and 11 types. 7 styles and 11 types. So that is what you should remember. So you know the one that is long. And for the styles, it started with direct lead and ends with cartridge lead. Direct lead and end cartridge lead. For the types, I think we started with the summary lead and ended with the double what is that? This thing should load our next page. So now we'll go to the body. We'll go to the body of the story. Don't forget that we said that usually news are written using the inverted pyramid, starting with the most important one and going down to the less important one little by little. And we said that the lead is the most important aspect. So we started with the lead. Now we are going to the body of the news. That is when we talk about transitional devices, quotations, other tips for writing the body. So what is the body? The portion of a news story that follows the lead is called the body. The portion of a news story that follows the lead in order of importance following the inverted pyramid style. After the lead, we have the body. After the lead, we have the body. So in the body, you could have things like names, descriptions, quotations, conflicting viewpoints, explanations, background data, and so forth. So news stories end with their least important details, never with any type of conclusion. So the least important details is what ends the story, just like we've mentioned in the inverted pyramid. Inverted pyramid. So look at the drawing. Look at the diagram for the where we say, you know, this is a pyramid inverted, that is turned upside down. So the first thing you see there on the first, which is the most important one, is the summary of the story, which looks like the lead. Then after the lead, we have, okay, they gave us a scenario of an accident here. They said for us to study the inverted pyramid, we can use a story of an accident. So let's say, for instance, if two cars collide, injuring several people. Using the inverted pyramid to write that story, you start with the summary of the story, which is the lead. You identify the injuries, which is the second important thing in the story. Explain how the accident occurred. That one too is important, but it's not as important as we knowing who and who got injured. So report that driver was charged with speeding. I will be more interested in how the accident occurred, who and who got injured, before you tell me what incidents on the part of the driver led to the accident. You understand? So you can see how they are arranging in the order of importance. Then quote one driver, a police officer or witness. Then describe damage to the car. Damage to the car is also important. We want to know how damaged the car is. But before I will want to know how much damage was done on the car, I will first be interested in the people there. Who and who got injured? How did the accident happen? You understand? Before you start telling me about the damages to the car, that's what they're trying to say in order of importance. So describe traffic problems caused by the accident. And then, you know, the story might not be that interesting if you started with the traffic caused by the accident. People will still be eager. They want, what really happened? Yes, we know that when accident happen, traffic will likely happen. But what really happened? In fact, when somebody reads the story to the extent of the type of damage that happened to the car, they will not read the traffic aspect again, because to some people it's not that necessary. It's not important. You've given us what really happened. So I can go about now and start saying, so if anybody tell me that there was a deep traffic in area 1 today in Abuja, I'll say, it was one driver like that. You know, that's what people want to know, the detail of what really happened before the effect on the other. So the background reveals that several other accidents have occurred at the same time. So we'll just use that. Now let's go to the main thing we are also going to talk about on the body. Don't forget that the part of the story that follows the lead is the body. That is the first thing you've learned here. Then you've also learned the traditional inverted pyramid style, and then transitional devices. You've done this in GST 101. Transitional devices, they are things we use to move from one idea to the other in a piece of writing. So most news stories run into several paragraphs and may develop several ideas and themes. So transitional words or phrases are used to achieve a smooth flow from the different themes, or ideas. So you know that in GST 101, you've learned that, oh no, sorry, you people are not there yet. It's in GST 102 that you be taught about paragraphs. So a paragraph must contain only one idea. So if you have so many ideas to write about in a story, one paragraph, one idea, but you need transitional devices to be able to move from one paragraph to another. Those are things that we use, like, furthermore, firstly, this is what happened. Secondly, in continuation, furthermore, perhaps, and so things we use to move from one idea that we've just finished passing, so that everything will not just look cluster uninteresting. So you need something to move smoothly from paragraph 1 to paragraph 2. You use that enough. If you have been writing long essays, you find out that after you've done your maybe little introduction in paragraph 1, at the end of paragraph 1, to start paragraph 2, you will use one transitional device there. Paragraph 2 will start with a transitional device. Likewise, paragraph 3, 4, and 5, and so on, depending on the number of paragraphs you have. So transitional devices that emphasizes the time element in the different aspects of an event are among the following. The common ones we have are earlier, later, next week, at the same time, meanwhile, soon after. These ones emphasize time. So list them. Let's list them in the chat box. The transitional devices that emphasizes time in story. List them now, the ones given here. We have so many of them, but a few of them were listed in your material. What are they? Earlier, later, next week, at the same time, meanwhile, soon after. So all these are transitional devices that shows time. So equally common are transitional words and phrases that highlight the location angle. For example, in the state capital, at their home, on Main Street, at another point nearby. When they ask you something like this in exam, those ones are related to place, location. They are related to location. The one that is talking about time, earlier, later, next week, those ones are the time of occurrence, time. Then we have another one. Some transitional words suggest the picture of an action. For example, turning to, suddenly, or grabbing his hand. So when you see this and they ask you what part of transitional devices are they are what? The ones that suggest action, picture of an action. Some linkage words emphasizes contrast. We use some of these transitional devices to mean contrast, and they ask a lot on this. So however, conversely, but nevertheless, in spite of, despite, on the other hand, you are contrasting. So however is used for contrast. Please, let's note that when it comes to contrast, we have however, conversely, but nevertheless, in spite of, despite, on the other hand. Okay, so that is it. We have other kinds of linkage devices for linking ideas or aspects of an idea. The others we have therefore, likewise, in addition to, namely, whereas, as a result of, accordingly, furthermore, in continuation, and so you can list them. There are so many of them. Transitional devices are so many. Meanwhile, yes, thank you. So thank you. So we have quotation. We are done with transitional devices. In this module, or in this unit, we are talking about three things. Yes, we are here to talk about three things. If you still recall, the body, the transitional devices, and the quotation. So quotations. Reporters get much information by listening to other persons and they can convey such information to readers in the form of direct, partial, or indirect quotation. So how do we use this quotation? How do we use these quotations? Because you already know what quotation means. If I'm saying something, if you are writing a story now, you are the one writing it, but you want to say what me I say exactly the way I say it, you need to put it in the quote. You have to quote it to show that this thing is not my own idea, it's not my own word, it's somebody, this is a person that said it. I'm quoting this person exactly the way the person said it. That is quotation. But you know, we have double quotation, we have single quotation, and so on. So let's check how it's being done. Indirect quotation do not use a source word. Yes, and consequently are not placed inside quotation marks. Instead, reporters use their own words to summarize or paraphrase the source remark. So we have indirect quotation. That is a type where I said something, but you furnish it, you paraphrased it. Maybe what I said was too long, but you summarize it, you paraphrased it. That is not direct quotation. That one is indirect quotation. In that case, you don't need to put it in the quotation mark because you've paraphrased it already. It becomes a quote when you write it exactly word for word how I said it. So indirect quotation is one that you've done adjustment to it to make it suitable to your style of writing or anything. Excuse me. So that becomes indirect quotation. We also have partial quotations. Partial quotation use key phrase from a source statement and quote them directly. So direct quotation presents the source exact words and consequently are placed entirely in quotation marks. So we also have partial quotation. The partial quotation is you pick phrases from a source statement. So it's not the whole thing the person said, but you pick phrases exactly how it is, but just pick some and quote them. That is partial. The direct one, I've mentioned that before. You quote it exactly how the person said it. So examples. For indirect quotation, Mrs. Ambrose said journalism students should deal with ideas, not mechanical techniques. If you want to quote that same indirect as a partial quotation, Mrs. Ambrose criticized the trade school atmosphere in journalism schools and said students should study ideas, not mechanical techniques. Don't be surprised if you see this Mr. Ambrose in your exam. So let's look at it very well. For the direct quotation of Mr. Ambrose, what did Mr. Ambrose really say? What was the real thing she said? Mr. Ambrose said journalism students should be dealing with ideas of a social, economic, and political nature. There is too much of a trade school atmosphere in journalism schools today. One spends too much time on minor technical and mechanical things like learning how to write headlines. Full stop. This was what Mr. Ambrose said. But look at how we put it in a partial quotation. You've paraphrased it, you summarized it, you put it in your own words as a writer. Look at the indirect, the partial quotation. You just brought out an important part of the quotation of what Mr. Ambrose said. That is partial quotation. You brought out an important part of what Mr. Ambrose said. This one, that important part that you cut out must be in quotation, not everything, but the part you cut out must be in quotation, but not the whole statement itself. Only the important part you cut out of what Mr. Ambrose said in partial quotation will be quoted. Well, indirect quotation, nothing will be quoted because you paraphrased everything in your own words. You've summarized everything in your own words. So those are the three types of quotation we have: indirect, partial, and direct quotation. Start with direct, indirect, and partial quotation. That's all you need to know there. So other tips for writing the body. In writing for newspaper, it is apt to note that newspaper are not literature. Thus, writing for newspaper is different from writing a novel or a story, or writing a short story. Writing for newspaper is different from writing a novel or writing a news story. So let's see what they have. The steps below are the basics you must follow as a writer to write a newspaper. You must plan. First step in writing a newspaper: planning. The most important part of writing is what happens inside your head between finishing the research and putting the first word down. The most important part of writing is what happens inside your head as a writer, and that happens between uh, the research when you went out to the field to make research and putting down the first word, putting your first word down about the findings. So that is planning. That is planning. Clarity needed in writing the body. If you have to plan first. Secondly, you must maintain clarity. Each story must be clear in thought, organization, language, and expression. Each story must be clear in thought, organization, language, and expression. Each story must be clear in thought, organization, language, and expression. That is what we call uh, clarity. That's all you need. So, well, to maintain or to achieve clarity in a story, you must in the body, you must do the following. One, be clear in your mind before putting pen to paper, before writing down or using the keyboard as we do these days. Before ever going into the act of writing anything, be clear in your mind first that you already have the picture you want to write, you want to paint. So, two, be careful to include each stage in a narrative, each event in a sequence, and each step in an argument. So that is clarity. If you want to maintain clarity, another thing you must want to maintain clarity. You know the way they ask questions on this kind of place in OBJ. They will list three correct, add one incorrect. So another one is don't assume that readers have special or prior knowledge. Don't believe that these people should know this thing already. So let me ignore this detail. No. Avoid terms that they are not familiar with. Try to provide as much information on the subject as possible without clutter. That means avoid jargon. The summary of this option C is that avoid jargon. D, ensure your sentences are totally clear. This one is still looking like okay, yes, we are still under clarity anyway. Try to make sentences to be free from ambiguity as possible. You already know the meaning of ambiguity. Now you've met it severally in your materials and look for the meaning. You've looked for the meaning several times, so I will not ask you to look for the meaning again. You should know it by now. Avoid tricky writing and tricky language. Do not attempt to impress the readers with pompous writing. Use words that are simple and easy to understand. So that is what will help you to achieve clarity. They mentioned 5 of them here. Don't use tricky language. Ensure your sentences are totally clear. Avoid jargons. Then be careful to present things in sequence, and then be clear in your mind. Those are the ways you can achieve clarity. Then another one is fresh language. The object of news story is to provide information, details, observation, insight, and the like that were up to the point of publication. Fresh language. It is therefore an unforgivable waste if this fresh information is packaged in language that is stale, tired, worn out, and overused. So since your news is fresh, use fresh language. That's what I'm saying. How do you achieve fresh language in reporting a news? Regard each story as an individual new thing itself. Do not attempt to pigeonhole a new story into already existing he said, she said categories. Try as much as possible to write the story as if it is happening for the first time. That is the mentality can help, so it can be helpful to achieve freshness. Avoid all cliches and overuse word. What is the meaning of cliche? Or is it cliche, or what do you call it in your own terms there? So what's the meaning of cliche? I think you guys have an overused expression. I think that was the time we said an overused expression or so. So if you guys still remember, that's good. This no doubt requires a good deal of self-effort because cliches come easy. Identify all forms of cliches and remove them from your story. Yes, overused words. Thank you. Avoid all automatic words. This is common with the use of adjectives in story. For instance, describing a mother is rather automatic and consequently, the impact that the word would have had on the story. So be careful with puns. Play on with words has a way of making your story interesting, but they also have their downside. Usually, puns lose the interest effect by effect they introduce into stories when they have been overused. What's the meaning of puns? Look at it for us. The word the word I highlighted there. What's the meaning? You guys should check it out. What's the meaning of puns? So work hard at creating new smiles, metaphors, and phrases. Well, all these are we don't need to put all this junk in the head. Just have an idea of what it means that freshness, freshness is another point in writing the lead. Then honesty. There are situations in the journalistic process that compromises the truth. Try to maintain honesty. Try to maintain honesty. Precision is another one of it. Precision. In all cases, be particular. That is the meaning of precision. Use known quantities rather than unknown ones. Be careful with using up to and more than. Do not use vague adjectives and avoid euphemism. Avoid euphemism. Now, suitability. This involves ensuring that there is a match between the style, pace, and tone of the story. That is suitability. Then another one is efficiency. Efficiency. This means that as much as possible, few words should be used to tell the story. Don't overuse words. Okay, I'm seeing some set of questions here. Finally, you have to be your fiercest critic. It is essential that you read back what you have written. Look for flaws and correct them. In making revisions, you should answer the following question. What am I trying to say? What words express it? What image or idiom will make it clearer? Is the image fresh enough to have an effect? Could I put it more simply? Those are the questions you use to criticize the story you've just written when you read it back yourself to check for errors and flaws. Okay, let's check back from the beginning. We've just been mentioning all these things under writing the body, how to effectively write the body of the story. So let's see what we have been dealing with and go over them. Tips for writing the body. Other tips for writing the body. We've mentioned some tips earlier when we're talking about, let me take you back now. When we talked about the quotation. But before quotation, we talked about something, if you guys can still recall, transitional devices. So when we come about writing about writing the body of a story, we have the transitional devices, quotation. Quotation is part of it. Then we have other tips. Other tips other tips, we have planning, number 1. We have clarity, number 2. We have fresh language, number 3. Clarity, number 3. Nobody look for the meaning of puns. I hope you guys are still there, or I'm talking to myself. Honesty is there. Precision is there. Suitability is there. Then efficiency is there. We're talking of what is it called now? Other skills for writing the body. So I think that brings us to the end of writing the body. Okay, it's like you guys are tired. I think I will leave you guys now. Go over your summary on module 1. And once you are done with module 1, if you can read module 1 through the summary or anything, you are good to go. That is enough for passing the course. Don't stress yourself much. It seems nobody is online now, or is it my network? Because my network has a way of behaving and misbehaving. Anyway, this 1 hour section is enough. Let's hold it there. Read summary on module one now. Read summary on module one. Read summary on module one. Converging speeches. Converging speeches, meetings, and news conferences. Well, what I would say is, with this part we've gone through, just try to brush through module one, maybe in the group together. Check your summary, answer questions on module one, and you are good to go. I'm so sure that will be sufficient for you guys in the exam. So I wish you guys luck. Make sure you get A1. Let's not continue. You guys should go and read summary on module one. Just all the questions and answer on that module one. Go and try it. You push allow me to eat. I just woke up from bed when I quickly on the system to start the class. My stomach is already pinching me. Let me go and eat abeg. All right. Good luck, guys. I'm sure you people will do well. This part will dwell on. You will see some questions on that part. So just cover it up with module one. Cover it up with module one and you will do well. Yes, you have a nice time.